And we're live. Hello YouTube, hello LinkedIn. Welcome to another session of Unleash Your Green Gorilla, this series of lives that I'm doing pretty much every week. This month is dedicated to careers in sustainability, and this is no exception. Before I say anything else, I'm Virginia Cinquemani. I'm the director and founder of Green Gorilla Consultants Ltd, which is a training and coaching company focused on sustainability professionals. And before I forget, we got a winter sale going on at the moment at Green Gorilla for the book. I only have a few copies of this left that I can sign, so that head to the website and also the courses and the coaching. There is a discount which ends on Sunday. So, but I'll repeat that at the end as well. But anyway, today we're going to focus on the best LinkedIn strategies for advancing your sustainability career. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Susan Kench, Hello, thank you for joining me, Susan, today. And do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about you.
Absolutely, Virginia. So, as Virginia says, my name is Susan Kench. I am the director of Marshall Walker, the LinkedIn Tutors, which is an independent specialist LinkedIn training company based in the London area, I guess, since we're all working virtually now. I work with clients one-to-one or in groups to basically help them use LinkedIn to raise their profiles, to find new clients, find new jobs, and to generally be really effective in their networking.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you, Susan. A question, how did you end up doing this job?
Well, I've had many different, many different hats through my life. I joined Marshall Walker back in 2015 when it was run by the founder and previous director, and was an associate for a few years, and then I bought the company in 2018. Basically, I've always been working in the area of relationship building, stakeholder engagement. Was working in a charity before that. Way back in time, I was doing stuff around public health when I was living in the States. So I've always been very interested in, and feels really important that that relationship building, engaging people, building communities is really the way forward, whether it's a personal thing or in terms of business. So LinkedIn just has that natural progression, and obviously I do feel very strongly that LinkedIn is a great place to be, and it's an amazing tool, and we're going to talk about that today, I think.
Absolutely. Now, I remind people that are connecting now, first of all, please feel free to introduce yourself, to say hi on the chat, to ask any questions to Susan in the next 30 minutes or so. But I have just, and I apologize because this has been a last minute thought, but I just put a survey on the event page for this event, for this live. And I would love you to complete it so that we can have an idea why people that are participating in this call use LinkedIn. So why do you use it? And you got a few options. So to look for a new position, to grow your network, to learn about your industry, or just to distract yourself, just like any other social media. And I know that someone has already voted, but we're going to pick on the survey later. Now, I know also that Susan has a passion for sustainability.
Yes, that's actually kind of how we connected, because in our network, we've got some mutual connections, and I was talking to them about what I'm doing in sustainability. So for some of you might know the Cambridge Institute of Sustainability Leadership. I've just finished the Business Sustainability Management course there. Have been very interested and really wanted to get more involved with doing some stuff to basically fight climate change. Got very passionate about it at the beginning of the year. Thought, okay, this is the year. Through LinkedIn, got connected with different networks, different organizations doing this kind of work. And then during this process of over the last few months, I've also got connected with a group of people and have joined the team. And it's an emerging NGO called Planet Groups, and basically our mission is to provide the structure and the support for employees in corporations to help them drive the sustainability agenda within their own companies, or to help them create one if there isn't one already, because we really feel that often the sustainability manager or director kind of gets siloed off, or maybe there isn't one at all, or there's a real gap between what sustainability reports are saying and what the employees are involved in or engaged with. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. And so, yeah, I am a LinkedIn trainer, but I also have a very, very strong interest in sustainability as well.
Fantastic project. That's exactly what I'm trying to head to in 2021 anyway. That's what we're trying to do, a bit more corporate work, because you have to start from, well, different angles, but businesses are important, of course. So let's go to the LinkedIn then. So why LinkedIn? And what do you think is the value of LinkedIn today? How has it evolved? Because I remember when I first joined a few years ago, it was just people desperate looking for a job, probably still full of people looking for a job. But what is your view of this platform today?
I think that the most important thing to say, and why I think LinkedIn is so important, is because it's about it's a tool to really support your business networking. So networking, I believe, is really, 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 really critical for anyone at any stage in your career. So that means whether you are internally working for a big organization and you're not even looking for a job right now, or obviously if you're looking for a job, or if you're externally facing, looking to build relationships with clients, or you're looking to build relationships with new employers. At every stage in your career, I think networking is hugely, hugely important, because it's about visibility, it's about building credibility, it's about building relationships in terms of helping you be more creative, innovation, ideas, mentors, and obviously raising your profile within that network. So first thing to say, networking is, I think, really important. Everybody should be thinking about it. And it's not just for the people who are trying to get a job or get new clients. It's for everybody. Why LinkedIn? Well, LinkedIn is still, I mean, it may change, but still the preeminent business-to-business social networking platform. There's nothing else out there at the moment. There are new things coming into the market, but they don't have the presence of the clout that LinkedIn does. We're now up to about 750 million worldwide members across 200 countries. So it's a free platform. Obviously, there are premium subscriptions, which you can pay for, but there's really no reason why you wouldn't be on it. If you are in business, if you are an employee, or if you're running your own business, both of those things, you should be on LinkedIn. And it's really, I try and repurpose it, because I know some people feel really uncomfortable about the word social media or the term social media. There are a lot of negative connotations when we think about that nowadays. Thankfully, LinkedIn has pretty much kind of like flown around that, mainly because it is about business professionals building relationships. But in the end, it's really just a tool. So if you want a really effective, useful tool for building productive networks in a genuine, authentic way, then I think, LinkedIn is where you should spend some time.
I also have my own reasons of why, of course, I'm on LinkedIn. For me, it's a business development tool. It's a way of creating, the buzzword of this the last few years, my personal brand. So, so the persona that I want, of course, to offer to my public and to my potential clients and to collaborators or whatever. But what is then the one thing that you think people should do? Because yes, networking is great, but in practical terms, what do you reckon people should do in order to take them, make the most out of this tool?
Well, first of all, remember, it's a tool that supports what you're doing outside of LinkedIn. Now, at the moment, obviously, when a lot of us are not doing any face-to-face stuff, but, we're doing Zoom and we're doing these kinds of things. So, first of all, think about it in the big picture of what your plan is. So if you are a small business, then you're presumably got a business plan, you've got a marketing plan. If you are looking for a job, you should have a strategy for how you're going to do that. If you are internally an employee who wants to really raise their profile around doing stuff around, say, sustainability, it's about strategy. So how you use LinkedIn really should be determined by what your strategy is. So I always talk to clients about, okay, let's start first. Okay, before you start putting stuff into your profile, what's your strategy? What are you trying to achieve? What are your goals? Who are the audiences that you want to build relationships with? And then how do you want to turn up on LinkedIn? How do you want to pitch yourself? And what are the most important messages that you want to convey? So that's where you start. Before you've gone in and done anything with LinkedIn, in terms of your profile or what you're sharing. So it's really looking at how you can fold LinkedIn into what you should be doing in whatever strategy you've got, depending on what your end goals are. And then once you've got that strategy, then LinkedIn has the tools and the features, obviously, to help you reach the people that you want to reach. But before you even think about reaching that, you've got to make sure that you are turning up on LinkedIn in a way that's going to be really empowering and give a really positive representation of yourself. So let's face it, first impressions do matter. They do count, even though, we kind of like, maybe it's not PC to say that. The way that you turn up, what you're talking about, how you're engaging with people, that's also very important, obviously. And it's really just translate from what you would do in a face-to-face networking situation. You translate that to LinkedIn. That's how you approach it, or you should approach it. So once you've got your strategy, goals, audiences, your kind of personal branding, as you talked about, what that means to you, how you want to come across, and the kind of key messages, then the next stage is you need to make sure you've got a really, really, really good profile, because that is your calling card. And everything that happens on LinkedIn is going to come back to your profile. So what I do find often is that people just have forgotten about their profile. They've been using it for a few years, maybe dabbling, maybe they created a profile 10, 15 years ago, haven't really thought about it very much. Maybe put it on there because they thought, well, it's kind of like, maybe when I want to get a job, or when they got a job 10 years ago, they plonked their CV kind of onto the profile, and that, and they haven't done anything since. So now might be a good time. December's a brilliant time to be looking at these things for the next year, for 2021. Hopefully we're all going to break out into this amazing positive run in January after a full year. So it's important to have a look and think about how you're presenting yourself on your profile. Okay. And as sustainability professionals, whether you are internally looking for to move more into that, or you're looking for clients, or you're looking for a job, all of those things, it's going to come down to who you are, and your profile is the place where you can really talk about that. It's a bit like your own personal website.
Yeah,
so that's where you can really start to give people an idea of who you are, and it's also a place where you can start to draw people in and engage them. Okay, so a couple of thoughts about profiles. Obviously, I do hold trainings on this, but a couple of things. The way that it's getting standout on your profile, so the visual impact. I mean, it sounds very simple, but it's so important. A banner image. If you're in sustainability, great. You can start using all those amazing pictures of rainforests and turtles swimming in the oceans, or whatever it is. So that's really going to draw the eye. A really, really professional photograph. Make sure your photograph, your headshot is either a professional one or a really good one that you've gotten from your phone. Don't use ones that are on holiday or any of that stuff. That's my view. what I think in terms of being professional. Your headline, super important. Headline directly underneath your name. First thing that a viewer will look at. So use those, and they've actually increased the character space from 120 to 220 now. So you've got more space. Use a combination maybe of keywords, maybe short sentences or tag sentences about what you are and what you offer. And then the content that you put on your profile is, you know, it's really important. So again, it's about your profile is about you, obviously, but think about it in terms of it being for your reader.
Yeah.
So this might be where you might want to get someone else to have a look at it, or you read it and put the hat on of your target audience, whoever that is. Read your profile and see whether it speaks to them, because it's the first place that you can really draw people in. Yeah.
I was going to ask the section about you, you know, that bit of you know, above the
about section. Yeah.
About the about section. People get confused about that. I think they don't know what to put in it. Sometimes it's very wordy, sometimes there's nothing in there, and maybe they just repeat to what's below. So what's the ideal, how would you use the about section? Because I suppose that's the one thing that jumps to the eye immediately when you open a person profile, if it's on a PC or, you know, a laptop.
Yeah,
so
so absolutely.
Practice for that.
Yeah, sure. So the about section replaced what used to be called the summary, which I think maybe, I don't know whether that was a better word in terms of explanation. I kind of talk about it as being kind of the summation of who you are as a professional. So it's not going to be about what you do, your current role, although you could mention that. It's about what's important to you, and also maybe even more important, what is the benefit of the reader working with you, employing you, building partnerships with you. So, you know, when I said that LinkedIn is about you, but it's for your reader, it's really important to highlight in that about section who you are, what you offer, and what's the benefit of networking with you, with employing you, with working with you. So it could be, you know, and the first 2 or 3 lines, I think, are probably really key of the about section, because as you will see when you look at someone's profile, you have to click see more after about 2 or 3 lines. So those first 2 or 3 lines are vital. And that's where you should be thinking about, what can I say that's going to draw the reader in to want to read more about who I am, what I offer, what's important to me, what my purpose is, how I problems that I solve. If you're a sustainability consultant, then put the hat of your ideal client on. What do they want to know about what you can do for them?
Yeah.
If you are looking for a new role, try and put yourselves in the shoes of your ideal next employer. What is it that you think that they'll want to know about you? When I'm talking to people who are looking for a new job in terms of LinkedIn, sometimes I say, well, you know, your about section is kind of like your cover letter. It's not your CV.
I was going to say exactly that. Would you put it in comparison with a cover letter? Yeah.
I think if you're looking for a new role, yes, because that's where you kind of bring it all together. You talk about what you've done, how it relates to what you're offering now in terms of this new role. And it talks about your approach. It maybe you could have something slightly personal, although I don't recommend putting how many kids you have or dogs.
No.
But sometimes in the about section, if there's something that you do, like if you, especially with sustainability, right? If you set up an NGO in Nepal, put that in there.
Yeah.
You know, if you're volunteering for, I don't know, you know, or if in your previous role you worked for the UN food program or something like that. I mean, those kinds of things, because that's giving a more 3-dimensional view of who you are as a professional.
Last week,
yeah.
we also spoke about strengths with Justin Douglas, another consultant who focuses on strengths. And and my personal view is also that that section should have, if you know your strengths, like if you've done one of these tests online to these quizzes to come up with your strengths, that's a beautiful place where to put them. Because as you say, it creates a 360-degree picture of you. It fills the gap between, okay, you can do this, this and that, and you got this qualification in that one, but how all of this glue together. So what are you good at? What is your USP, your unique selling point?
Yeah, absolutely. And the about section will, I mean, that's really important if you're looking for a role. But if you are, you know, a small business owner just running your own sustainability consultancy, then what you put in the about section may be more focused, again, because you're trying to write it for the reader in terms of pulling out. It could be also in that section, you might want to put a case study or a project that you've worked on that demonstrates to the reader really quickly how you've worked with other clients and how you've solved their problems, or what you've done, what you've achieved for them. So again, it's always going back to strategy. Why am I on LinkedIn? What am I trying to do here? Who am I trying to build relationships with? And obviously, you know, this is not a static document. You can change it.
Yeah.
You know, in a year's time, if you were looking for a role and now you really just want to build relationships with internally, then change it around. And again, think about what it is you want to say and how you want to pitch yourself, and what's important to the people that you're trying to build relationships with.
You can also add links, so you can add documents in that section there, so you can make it a little more, you know, your website or something, so you can make it a little more.
And just underneath the about section, there's what they call the featured section, which they made bigger, which I think is great. And absolutely. So what you want to do there is to basically give your reader a deeper dive into who you are and what you offer. You know, if you've got articles, thought leadership pieces, absolutely put that in. If you've been on one of these kinds of things and been talking about what you do in terms of sustainability, that goes on there. Anything that helps people get a better sense of who you are should go in that featured section. Yeah.
Fantastic. So let's go back 1 minute to the networking element, which I think is quite, is quite key, like you said at the beginning, to the success. Now, I'll just pick on one comment in the section that says that actually this is the only social media, Tashar, I hope I'm pronouncing your name okay, he uses to connect with the community of architects and sustainable developers. So he uses it for networking. He or she, apologies. I don't know exactly, but so what is maybe like one tip on how to improve your networking abilities? Because I can feel people sometimes, especially if you don't use it every day, like some of us do, you feel shy, you don't want to comment, you don't want to post. How can you break the ice in that sense? How can you start, creating your branding, but also network with others?
Okay, well, I guess there's different entry points. It depends on whether or not you know the person first, whether you've had any kind of interaction with them off of LinkedIn. I would say try and get yourself into a habit of every time you speak to someone, whether it's online or on the phone or even face to face, that, if it makes sense, that you invite them to connect. So you actually, once you're connected, you're obviously first degree connections. They're going to see content that you're talking about. You're going to see content that they're talking about. I think if you don't know them yet and you find them on LinkedIn, the best approach is, if you want to know them, is that there is a section on everyone's profile, if they are active at all. It's called the activity section. And that is, if you click on that, you'll be able to see any articles that they've actually published on LinkedIn, any posts they've shared, or anything that they've actually engaged with at all. And so my suggestion is in order to build a network with the people that you want, if you don't know them yet, is to see whether you can start engaging with things that they're talking about on LinkedIn. So I guess, getting over that feeling of, oh my gosh, I don't want to approach anyone. that I can't help you with more than say, chill, it's fine. Yeah, just do it, because number one, people are on LinkedIn because they are trying to build relationships, right? Number two, I think sustainability professionals have actually got a superpower that other business people on LinkedIn don't have, is that, and I've noticed this really, in the last few months, is that I think everybody is yearning for purpose in their jobs, and especially over these last few months. So if you present yourself as a genuine, authentic person that really, is passionate about sustainability, I don't think anyone is going to say, absolutely, I don't want to talk to you. So, I mean, I think if you are a salesperson, you're selling, I don't know, whatever, digital marketing or retail or real estate, then you might have a little bit more of a difficult, people might not be so. But sustainability is, everybody is at least not, interested enough to not block you. So look at what other people are talking about, and then commenting, I would say, is the best first approach. So this is before you know them, before you're connected even. You don't have to be connected to comment on other people's content, so what they're posting. And so a nice comment with, I would always suggest, don't just say thanks, great point. Expand on that, because you want to then start to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about. And that you have something interesting to say, which will then keep the conversation going. And then will hopefully, because when you comment, that the original poster will see a notification that you made a comment, you're going to start popping up in their awareness. Yep. From being someone that they had no idea existed to someone who is commenting in a very thoughtful, insightful way on things that are of interest to them. Then you can go for an invitation to connect at that point, or you could wait a bit, but it's going to be much easier to connect with someone if you've engaged in a really thoughtful way with their content previously.
Yeah. And my experience changed completely when I went solo in terms of my career. So before, I was on LinkedIn because of my previous employment, and I was trying to keep within the corporate rules of what I could post and what I couldn't. Obviously, when I started my own business, it was in my interest to become more visible, and I completely changed my strategy. But at the beginning, I was frightened by posting stuff. And my own personal thing that worked for me was actually to share. So if people are like, because I coach people, and sometimes they're like, yeah, but I don't know what to say. Maybe they think their opinion is not worth a post on LinkedIn. So I'd say, probably the first thing they could do, I don't know whether you agree with that, is to share some interesting news from the industry with their own twist on it, because it's easy. You get your voice across in terms of what you believe in and what your values are, what is your, point of view, without necessarily sharing something, I don't know, personal about your life or your career. What do you reckon?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what I definitely say is, if you don't have, you don't have to have written an article and then post it on LinkedIn. Use third-party content, and then repurpose it and use it as a platform to demonstrate your own thought leadership. So, you share an interesting article, and then in that top, LinkedIn offers you that space above the article once it's been loaded, to put your own opinion on it, your own spin on it, your own insights in it, and maybe sometimes invite other people in terms of asking them questions. What do you think? What's your view? So those are all good ways of, dipping your toe in the water of starting to actually turn up on LinkedIn. Because, I talked about how the profile is the first step and essential step. You need to have a really good profile. But if you don't ever participate in the conversations on LinkedIn, then the level of awareness that people will have about you is going to be very limited. So, you build your network to build, the people who are going to be able to see what you're talking about. And then you have to step into that role and develop your leadership persona around, sustainability. And that can be, using third-party content and then putting your own spin on it. It can be creating your own original posts. I think a lot of people think, well, I've got nothing to say, but actually, if you are talking about this on a daily basis or thinking about this on a daily basis, there are core nuggets that you can then develop into a post. You could do hundreds of them if you just had the time. So I'm not saying you do hundreds of them. In fact, you know, I think LinkedIn says, you know, the best possible scenario is 1 post per day. It's not Twitter. You do have the knowledge, and it will create conversations and you know, will help you to expand your reach to a wider network. The more that you are sharing posts that are useful, that add value to the conversation.
I was going to say as well, of course, you have to, sometimes it's good to ask questions, for example, and, you know, start the conversation that way. Sometimes you might put your own opinion on something and agree, you know, it's guaranteed that someone will say, well, yeah, I agree with you. Or usually, you know, there is a lot of agreement on LinkedIn. I realize much more than in other platforms, which is good. But occasionally we get the odd, you know, the odd, quite strong disagreement, which is, you know, it's human nature, it's fine. But it's good, you know, it creates a little bit of movement there and it gets you more visible. Yeah,
well, I mean, hopefully it's not, you know, it's not rude, the comments that you're getting. I mean, I think with sustainability, there are still people who are going to be climate deniers, or people saying, well, there's no, you know, I've seen it myself. And, but I think that's another opportunity to, you know, to have the conversation. Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I would say, that as people in sustainability on LinkedIn, from my own experience working with people who are, you know, doing this more and more, and from my own experience, what I've shared recently, as I said before, people are really interested in sustainability. So you are going to, you know, the founder of the NGO that I'm working for, he gets hundreds of comments and more around posts that he does. So the engagement is really, really quite phenomenal in some of this work, which is going to be brilliant. You know, as a sustainability professional, that's what you want. You want to reach as many people as possible because you're passionate about it, and also because maybe you want to get a job or clients, whatever else it is. So LinkedIn at the moment is a really, really good place for that, in terms of getting that visibility and being able to reach a wider audience.
So in terms of sustainability, for example, I have the example of one of my mentees, because I'm part of our network of sustainability mentors. So we're going to actually meet on this platform next week, the founder of that network. So I'm a mentor there. One of my mentees got a job because he was so active on LinkedIn. He's a graduate, but he's a very switched on person and very aware. And what he does usually is shares, you know, news that he finds on, I don't know, major newspapers or, you know, media channels, and then puts his spin on it, or his comments and everything. And again, it's an easier way to start building up your credibility, I think. And he has, you know, and obviously learning as well. That's the one thing that I, you know, probably we haven't mentioned yet. Lots of people, especially if you're employed and you don't need to look for a job, and, or, you know, you got your network and everything, you can learn a lot through LinkedIn. You can learn, you know, personally, it's my major source of CPD, continuous professional development. A lot of what I read, the articles and the videos and the publications, all are being pinpointed to me through LinkedIn. So I think that's a very powerful way of growing your understanding of your sector and finding your opportunities that way as well. You never know. There might be something around the corner that you didn't know existed that someone posted, and, you know, and you're aware of it. So I think that's another big thing for LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Going back to the
there's so much content on there. Yeah,
exactly.
I was going to say there's so much content on there, so you know, you can really get a sense of what's going on in the industry. If you are and looking at different companies, the company pages, you can get a sense of what other people are doing, what competitors are doing. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there to research.
Do you suggest as well for people to create their own little strategies in terms of who to approach and the companies to follow? And I suppose that's part of what everyone should do when, they decide how they want to show up on LinkedIn, and then start engaging directly with these people, even though they might not be connected.
Absolutely. It goes back to strategy. What do you want to do? Who do you want to build relationships with? And then, yes, once you decide who they are, you might have your top 10 ideal clients, or your top 10 influencers that, could help you get your next job, or top 10 people you want to have informational interviews with. If you're working internally for a big organization, think about strategically the colleagues that you want to build better relationships with. Are you connected with them? Often you're not. So yeah, I identify who they are. If you're not, if you're not connected, have a look at what they're talking about. And if they aren't talking about anything and they're not using LinkedIn very much, well, then just go ahead and invite them to connect with a really nice personalized message. Now, you don't get a whole load of characters, about 300 characters, but be specific. Why do you want to connect with them? Obviously, hopefully they will know who you are if you're internally, but maybe they won't. It's about having that strategy and then following through with it. And again, I want to emphasize that it doesn't matter whether you're looking for a role or whether you're, working internally or externally. Networking is vital for every stage of your career, because you never know when you might need to do something different, or if you want to build alliances internally. Something that I'm understanding more and more is about, in terms of businesses, trying to help companies drive sustainability internally. It's actually at the heart of everything they do in terms of the business model, is that you're not just about, it's not just about building relationships with the, maybe the sustainability manager or the sustainability champions. It's really about building relationships across all the different functions, because it's important in every function. And if you go all those networks internally, you really need to be, thinking about it that way.
That's actually a question that came into my mind from what you just said. Some people ask whether they should connect with just anyone, or whether they should be quite picky in terms of who to connect with, or which connections to. What's your idea? Do you limit yourself to your sector, or do you expand to other sectors as well?
It really does depend on what your goal is for being on LinkedIn. If you've got your own very small business, then you might want to use it more as a marketing channel, which means you might want to have a wider audience. But I do think that for sustainability people, I think you can definitely sort out kind of the criteria or the personas of the target audiences that you want, or people that you want to build relationships with. And then kind of go about finding people that fit those personas. And I get this asked a lot because, some people get a lot of pending, they have a lot of pending invitations, people are inviting them to connect. What do I do about it? So decide what your persona is, of your ideal connections, and then you can clear out your pending invitations very easily by, do they fit in this? Yes, no, yes, no. Now, some people would argue, well, it's great to have, just connect with everybody. I mean, that can help, potentially you could get to a wider and wider audience if your post gets a lot of engagement. So that's an argument for it. The argument against it is that if you want to use LinkedIn as as networking platform that it can be, then you really want to be able to use it in terms of leveraging your relationships with your first degree network in order to get to that person in the second degree network, which might be your next employer or your next client or whatever else. And so if you don't have any relationships with these people to start with, how can you do that? So, I'm sorry that there's no one clear answer.
No, but
it depends on your strategy.
On what you want to do. The other thing is, LinkedIn is often used. I receive an enormous amount of sales pitches through my personal messages, which are really annoying unless they're done well. One thing people don't realize, I believe, is that LinkedIn is a networking platform, not necessarily a selling platform. And by building your network, by being consistent with your posting and commenting and everything, you will eventually reach the people you want to reach in a more gentle way than the aggressive 1980 salesperson type of
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And it's a relationship building platform. Take the idea of sales out of it. I mean, and it's very simple to think about it this way. If you're working to a networking, like an event you've been invited to, and someone comes up to you, gives you their card and says, I can give you, just talks at you about what they can do and then walks away. What are you gonna think? And that's
Another way I heard of this is like when you go on a first date and then you propose to that person, and ask them in marriage. It's like, no, that's not what you do. You have to build a relationship. You can't go on a first date and ask them to be married. And that's, I think, a very good way of, or at a party or a networking event, you just don't go there and assault them with your products. So Susanne is saying, so helpful about deciding who to connect with in pending invitations. I prefer to receive a message with an invitation. I always send one because otherwise I have no idea what the person wants to connect with me. And I agree completely.
Yeah. And I don't know whether Susanne knows this or other people might know. There is a link which if you get an invitation and the person has not sent you a personalized message, there is a link. It's message. It says it's blue message. You can click on that, and if you can be bothered and have the time, you can send them a message saying thanks for the invitation. I don't usually accept without a message, or how can I help? If you're not sure whether or not, most people might just ignore it, but if that person could be of interest but you're not sure, you can send that message and you're not accepting them at that point. It's kind of a halfway house just to see why did they want to connect with you. But I think generally speaking, if the person is a salesy type person, and I get a lot of invitations to people who can help coaches, and I'm not a coach in that sense, but they've just somehow through an automated process, they found the word coach in my profile, and I get these, and there's no message attached. It's more than likely that you're going to think, if this is their approach, I don't think I really, there's a lot of fish in the sea.
Oh yeah.
150 million to be exact on LinkedIn right now. So yeah.
All right. So Susan, do you have any final thoughts on did we forget something we haven't covered? I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff.
Well, I think we've touched on most of what I was thinking to talk about. I mean, I spend hours training people on actually how to do it, but I think the other, just to reiterate, is seize the day. If you are feeling like, oh, I don't really know that I want to be this visible with what I'm talking about, or I can't write a good post, or you're feeling slightly afraid of that, always remember that you can always delete a post, or you could edit it. So nothing is going to, end up out there which you're going to be ashamed of. And the other thing is LinkedIn etiquette. It's very basic. Just put yourself out there in a way that hopefully you would put yourself out there in a face-to-face, in-person situation. Avoid politics, avoid religion. Now, sustainability, as I said, can be a little, so some people still can be a little bit controversial. So, be respectful if someone is saying, but engage on that conversation, because I think that's useful too. I think that's network. Just keep building your network. It's a really important time for sustainability, but over the last few months, I think so many more people have gotten online and will continue to be online. we're in a completely different kind of, you know, world now as it comes to business. So LinkedIn will always be a really great support for anything you're doing in terms of building relationships. So use it as a tool to support what you're doing outside of LinkedIn.
Great. We got another question for you, if that's okay. Do you think it's okay to come and have a look on someone else's account? So when you get such and such as looked at your profile, do you think that's okay? You know, what's your opinion?
Okay, I think what they're talking about is that you get told when someone has viewed your profile, and I think the person is saying, what about looking at other people's profiles? So there's, so that's a way that you can actually, if you are visible, because there's a way that you can look at people's profiles in private mode, which means that you, that person will only see, you know, a LinkedIn member. They won't get to see that it was you. If you're doing it in full visible mode, I mean, it is a way, if you want to show your hand and say, look, I'm kind of interested in what you're talking about, that person will see that, and that might stimulate some communication. I know it's happened for me both ways. If you are looking for a job and you're not yet ready to, you know, looking at, I don't know, someone who you might want to approach or whatever, or a client that you're not ready to let them know that you're doing some, or a competitor that you're doing some research on, then I would suggest put yourself in private mode while you're looking at them. And then you can reveal your hand at a later date or when you're ready. So, I mean, I think it's definitely a good way to kind of start stimulate, you know, the relationship building, but you can control when you're, you know, the point that you're ready to do that.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you so much, Susan. How can people reach out to you if they want more, you know, training on LinkedIn, for example, or more help in that area?
Send me a nicely written personal invitation request, referring to the fact that you were listened to this this session, and I'll be very happy to have a chat. I mean, what I usually do is, if someone is interested in working with me, we always have a chat first, because it's important to kind of find out what people's goals are and what they want to achieve. And also, as you know, being a coach, you know, everybody has, working with a trainer or a coach, it's about that personal connection, who you feel comfortable with, who you feel you can trust. So that's a valuable thing to kind of establish that before we start working together. So just follow me on LinkedIn.
Try your, you know, first a very nicely written message on Susan. Connection message, yeah.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Susan, for joining me today. Just a reminder to people online, we got at Green Gorilla, we got a winter sale going on until Sunday for coaching, e-learning, and even the book. Just if you want to maybe, you know, give a different gift to your colleagues, I don't know, a secret Santa of some sort. All right, then. So thank you so much, Susan. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us and asking questions. And we'll see you next week talking about mentorship and coaching and the importance of it in your sustainability career. So have a lovely afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.